storage, otherwise known as CCS, has been heralded as a groundbreaking solution for our climate crisis. But let's get real. This so-called solution is more a smokescreen than a silver bullet, which allows polluters to carry on as usual whilst governments throw taxpayers' money at a technology that's not just unreliable, but in many cases barely functional.
Sir Starmer and the Labour Party are quietly planning to pick the pockets of UK taxpayers with this new scheme. But is it truly in the public's interest or just a political ploy aimed right at your wallet? Let's uncover the truth behind this seemingly well-intentioned policy. But before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any news from across the nation.
Ed Miliband, the UK's Energy Secretary, has thrown £22 billion at it in his delusion that it will help solve what some tout as a climate crisis. Carbon capture sounds like a futuristic idea that should work wonders, but the reality is far less rosy. In fact, it's costing us billions for little to no measurable impact on global carbon emissions.
Let's begin by reassessing the concept of carbon capture, an idea that sounds promising in theory, but in reality is a wasteful trap. At its core, carbon capture is simply the act of absorbing carbon dioxide, a pollutant emitted by industrial and energy production processes, and storing it deep underground. Although it sounds straightforward, putting it into practice requires enormous resources, complex systems, and massive financial investment. To scale up this process, we would need to build vast networks of pipelines and storage sites extending for hundreds or thousands of kilometers just to bury CO2 underground. Not only is this infrastructure expensive to construct, but it also poses significant long-term risks, from potential leaks to harmful effects on local ecosystems, raising questions about whether this is truly a viable environmental solution. Simply put, if carbon really is an urgent threat, burying it underground as though we could ignore any future consequences is far from a sustainable solution. This approach is no different than bandaging a deep wound without addressing the underlying infection. Carbon capture is merely a tactic to appease public opinion, allowing polluting industries to continue their operations while creating a facade of green efforts to mislead the public. It's no surprise that this technology has the enthusiastic support of giant oil and gas corporations. These fossil fuel giants are often the loudest advocates for carbon capture. After all, with carbon capture as a shield, they can continue to extract and burn oil, coal, and natural gas, while claiming to be working toward carbon neutrality. Why would they need to change? This is simply a way for big corporations to greenwash their image, painting themselves as environmental heroes in the eyes of the public and governments, while in reality, they are the root of the climate pollution crisis. And what is the final outcome of this greenwashing effort? It is continued dependency on fossil fuels and billions of dollars wasted on a technology that cannot deliver on its promises. Carbon capture plants are not only a financial disaster but also a weak solution. The existing carbon capture plants cost billions in taxpayer funds, but contribute very little to emissions reduction. On a global scale, the contribution of these facilities is minuscule, barely making a dent in the massive emissions that need to be addressed. Today's large-scale carbon capture plants only manage to capture a minuscule amount of total global emissions. Moreover, operational costs keep climbing, forcing many companies to abandon these projects and shifting the enormous financial burden to taxpayers, the very people who receive no benefits from this distant promise of green. So when will we stop placing our faith in these deceptive technologies and focus instead on genuinely sustainable solutions? The Kemper project in Mississippi is a prime example of the appalling waste involved in attempting to deploy carbon capture technology. The project consumed over $7 billion in public funds, yet ultimately failed to deliver any meaningful results. A similar waste is unfolding in the UK, where Energy Minister Ed Miliband is planning to funnel another £22 billion, a colossal sum of taxpayer money, into yet another carbon capture project, clinging to the promises that this technology offers. However, the ironic reality is that carbon capture technology has never genuinely helped reduce emissions and has, in fact, unintentionally nourished the fossil fuel industry. Most of the captured carbon today is used to inject back into oil fields to stimulate additional oil extraction, a practice that, instead of helping the environment, merely clears the path for more fossil fuel production. This turns carbon capture into a tool supporting the oil industry, in stark contrast to its initial purpose of reducing greenhouse gases. A ridiculous paradox, capturing carbon to reduce emissions, but in practice, enabling greater oil and gas extraction, indirectly worsening pollution. In light of such absurdity, we cannot help but ask, where is the genuinely effective and sustainable solution? Notably, effective, practical and affordable solutions already exist. Renewable energy sources like wind, solar and hydropower are sustainable options that can be scaled without relying on the stability of carbon buried underground. Moreover, planting trees and restoring forests are natural and far less expensive methods to absorb carbon sustainable ways that nature has provided us with for centuries, without the need for billions in public funds to maintain. But these solutions may not appeal to big corporations, whose short-term profits lie in green technology in name only. Not only that, but carbon capture technology, with its enormous costs, distracts us from more practical and effective solutions. Every dollar spent on a carbon capture project is a dollar not invested in developing renewable energy and genuinely green technologies. In fact, the existence of this technology serves as a green cover for polluting industries, allowing them to deceive themselves into thinking they're acting for the environment while continuing operations with massive emissions and no real change. This is a classic case of greenwashing hidden behind flashy environmental slogans, but in truth, it's simply an excuse to delay real action. Achieving sustainable climate solutions requires commitment, clear accountability, and change from industries that have long benefited from polluting practices. Rather than pouring billions of dollars into an unproven technology, it would be far better to invest in reforestation, tree planting, and sustainable initiatives that have already demonstrated long-term effectiveness. While fossil fuels may still play a certain role, if we truly recognise carbon as an urgent problem, we should see carbon capture as merely an expensive crutch that allows a lagging industry to extend its polluting ways rather than innovating. We must not let empty promises about carbon capture become a barrier that keeps us from getting closer to practical solutions. It is merely a meaningless illusion, delaying critical efforts to protect the climate at a time when urgency is paramount. Imagine an alternative scenario. Instead of pouring billions into carbon capture projects, we invest in natural, sustainable measures like tree planting and ecosystem restoration. This isn't just a smarter path, but also the only way to achieve true sustainability. Carbon capture technology is no different from sweeping dust under the rug. It merely provides polluting industries with an excuse to continue producing without being held accountable for reducing emissions. Even when operating at full capacity, carbon capture facilities can only capture a fraction of global emissions, leaving the core issue unresolved. A sad reality is that companies pushing for carbon capture technology often receive huge subsidies from national budgets, meaning that the public shoulders the cost for an ineffective, impractical solution. Why not use that money to develop renewable energy and expand forest areas? This natural, affordable and effective approach not only genuinely reduces CO2, but also provides sustainable benefits for the habitats we all rely on. If we are serious about confronting climate change, the world must end these artificial greenwashing tactics. What we need is real action, not extravagant, unrealistic technologies. What do people think about the issues we have discussed in today's video? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on the latest political developments in the UK. Thank you all, and see you in the next videos.